the live stream.
The Supreme Court is now in session. The Honorable F. Philip Carbolito, Chief Justice, presiding.
Thank you. Good morning, councils. And at this time, I'd like to ask the clerk to please call the case.
This is Supreme Court case number CRQ20-002, in re request of Lourdes A. Leon Guerrero, Imagahagan Guahan, relative to the power of the executive branch to establish, maintain, and operate quarantine facilities in Guam and to promulgate quarantine and sanitation regulations for the people of Guam against the importation and spread of disease. Appearing for the petitioner is attorney Sophia S. Diaz and attorney Leslie A. Travis. Appearing for the interested party, Department of Public Health and Social Services, is attorney Janice M. Camacho and attorney Joseph Paris. Appearing for the interested parties, incoming travelers subject to quarantine, is attorney Brian Eggleston. Appearing for the interested party, the 36th Guam Legislature, is attorney Anna Wampat Borja. Appearing as amicus curiae for the Attorney General of Guam's office is attorney James L. Canto and attorney Jordan Lawrence Palhoun. The panel consists of Chief Justice F. Philip Carbolito, Associate Justice Robert J. Torres, and Associate Justice Catherine A. Merriman.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So at this status and DQ hearing, I'm going to go through the process of how we're going to proceed when this case is argued. And we're going to discuss the time periods for each of the councils to argue. And also at the end, I'm going to ask who is going to argue on behalf of your client. There are some of you that are joining in reference to another lawyer on the case. And so we just want to know who is actually going to be arguing the case. So we will address the order of arguments and the splitting of time, as I've indicated. At the last status hearing, I mentioned that since the governor and the Department of Public Health's position were aligned, that they would share time or otherwise make an appropriate request with the court. I've not received that to date, but we have up until the time that this is going to be argued. And so it appears now that the AG is not only appearing on behalf of the Department of Public Health and Social Services, but also on its own behalf as amicus curiae, as to this, at least as to the separation of powers issue addressed in the supplemental briefing. The Attorney General's office requests 10 minutes of argument as amicus. Their position on the separation of powers issue is aligned with Public Defender Service Corporation and the legislature, and I will grant that request. Maybe it's an appropriate time at this time, Jamie. I'd like to ask you who is going to be arguing on behalf of the Attorney General's, the Office of the Attorney General.
Thank you, Your Honor. That would be Mr. Palhoun.
All right, thank you for that. And will the Attorney General be arguing for the Department of Public Health and Social Services?
If Your Honor is addressing me, I do not believe, unless Ms. Camacho can correct me, I do not believe that they were requesting oral arguments on behalf of Department of Public Health and Social Services.
All right.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Let Janice go ahead.
Mr. Canto is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. So the following is the proposed order of argument and the splitting of time. I'm suggesting this at the outset. If anyone feels otherwise, now's the time to speak up. The governor and the Department of Public Health and Social Services we'll split the 30 minutes, assuming Department of Public Health and Social Services wishes to argue. Since the AG's office will not be arguing for Department of Public Health, I think that's what I heard. So does that mean that the office of the governor will be entitled to the full 30 minutes? Janice first.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, so originally, the Public Defender Service Corporation was to have 30 minutes as the only interested party opposing the governor's position. Now, as to the separation of powers issue, the legislature and the Office of the Attorney General are aligned with Public Defender Service Corporation. As I have indicated, I have granted the AG's request for 10 minutes of argument at oral arguments. And at this time, Anna, I'm going to ask you if the legislature wishes to present oral arguments.
Yes, Your Honor, the legislature would like to participate in oral argument as well. We would request 15 minutes.
All right, we will grant the legislature 10 minutes as we have done with amicus, the Office of the Attorney General. And so you will have 10 minutes of argument time. So this will add an additional 20 minutes to our regular argument time. Where the Office of the Governor will have 30 minutes. The Office of the Public Defender Service Corporation will have 30 minutes. And then the Office of the Attorney General, Mr. Pauloon, will have 10 minutes. And Attorney Ana Wampat Borja will have 10 minutes. And so, of course, the governor can reserve for rebuttal any of its 30 minutes time. And you can indicate, you can think about that, Sophia. You don't have to indicate right now in reference of how much time you reserve. But as you prepare for oral arguments, you need to indicate that to the clerk of court before we begin arguments. All right, and so let me first say that I want to thank the parties for agreeing to participate in this outreach argument. The students from George Washington and the University of Guam have been invited to participate via webinar. They will have the opportunity to participate in the Q&A session with the justices and attorneys after the arguments. Our staff attorney just indicated that they have time limitation in terms of their classes. We're hoping that at least some of them will be able to stay back in the event our argument time exceeds their classroom period time. But if not, this case, of course, takes precedent. We're not going to cut any time for that purpose. And we're going to allow counsels to fully argue this very important case to the court. And so I'm thanking all of counsels on behalf of my colleagues in reference to your agreeing to make this case part of our Law Week outreach program, now Law Month. Before it was Law Day. Justice Torres keeps extending our celebration. And so any questions that any of the councils have in reference to the proposed time and how we intend to proceed on the date of oral argument. And Justice Torres and Justice Merriman.
I just have one clarification I wanted to make with councils. Will all the councils that are here now be joining the virtual courtroom on the day of the oral argument?
All right.
All right. And so we'll plan on that accordingly. And you can, I guess, keep your video on during the time that that the oral arguments will be proceeding.
Yes, I do want everyone to turn their video on once we start and keep it on throughout the oral arguments. We are live streaming this, and you've indicated all your names. And so how it appears is how we would like us to proceed in the morning of oral arguments.
Your Honor.
It's going to be a little bit different than our normal oral argument where it's done as a Zoom meeting because we're doing it as an outreach. We're going to be doing it as a webinar. And so the clerk of court may reach out to you if you don't mind, just to make sure, because you'll be as panelists and you'll see the students' names as attendees that'll be in there. And then we'll promote some students for questions at the end of the session. So the logistics might be a little different. So you might get a call from either CJ's judicial assistant or the clerk of court to go through just a quick practice as a webinar. So everyone's familiar. It's not much different, but it might make it so there's no hiccups on the actual day. Okay.
This is Jordan Pauloon. I have a question related to just ordering, and maybe I missed this. Because we have the legislature and the Attorney General's office arguing, is there a particular order that you're going to have us go in on the argument day?
Yes, we will, of course, we will start with Sophia and Travis. I'm sorry, Leslie. Sorry, excuse me there, Leslie. And who will be arguing for the governor the morning?
Ms. Travis will, Your Honor.
Okay. And so, Jordan, we will then start with the governor. Attorney Leslie Travis will begin. And then we will follow that with Mr. Eggleston. Eggleston,
Your Honor.
Eggleston. Okay, then we will start with the Public Defender Service Corporation. And then I would like to then have the legislature, Ana Wampat Borja, proceed with her 10 minutes. And then the Office of the Attorney General, Jordan, you will proceed with your 10 minutes. And then we will have the governor with her rebuttal. Let me ask this of you, Leslie. There are quite a number of, there are additional parties that have entered the case. Is there any desire on the part of the Office of the Governor for additional time? Is there any requests, or do you feel that your 30 minutes is sufficient to cover your initial presentation and then your rebuttal to the various arguments of counsel?
Your Honor, I believe that the 30 minutes will be sufficient. However, I don't know that the court has actually received it, but this morning my office filed a motion to exceed the volume limitation on the reply brief. I believe we're requesting an additional 3,000 words. If the court hasn't received it yet, it should have already been filed maybe an hour ago.
All right. We will look at that motion and we'll answer it today. We'll make a decision today. But I don't feel that's an unreasonable request concerning the various parties that have entered and the denial of the motion to strike. So, but I will discuss that with my colleagues, and we will provide a response to you today. Any other questions?
I have a question, Mr. Chief Justice.
Yes.
Just to clarify, at the oral argument hearing, for those parties who will not be addressing the court, do you want our video to still remain on?
Yes, I do. I
Okay.
think all of you have worked very hard. We are live streaming this to the public. We have got good responses. And I'd like to recognize all of you for your efforts in helping the court make a decision in this case.
Very well, thank you.
If I may, Mr. Chief Justice.
Yes, Justice Merriman.
I think just for the record, every party has waived or any objection to the panel.
That's correct. We were supposed to address that. And is there any objection to the panel as indicated earlier? And so for the record, as Justice Merriman has requested, I'd like for each of the party to turn on their their microphone and indicate for the record your position.
No objection to the panel, Your Honor, as constituted on behalf of the Office of the Governor.
On behalf of the Public Defender Service Corporation and incoming travelers, there is no objection, Your Honor.
On behalf of the Department of Public Health and Social Services, no objection, Your Honor.
And on behalf of the Guam Legislature, no objection to the panel, Your Honor.
On behalf of the Office of the Attorney General, as amicus, I don't believe we have a stake in the composition of the panel as amicus.
But just for the record, is there any objection?
But I have no other objections. So
We don't want any collateral issues, so we thank you for that.
yes.
Chairman, thank you for that reminder. So councils, I don't have anything else and I don't see any hands going up. So I thank you for your presence this morning. We look forward to oral arguments and our outreach program in celebration of Law Day. Thank you, councils, and the court now stands adjourned.
Thank you, Your Honor.
After